The bottle rolled across our parents' hardwood floor, its prescription label catching the dining room light. My sister Eva lunged for it with unusual speed for someone supposedly battling stage 3 lymphoma, her perfectly manicured nails scraping against the wood as she snatched it up. I'm Freya, and that was the moment I should have known something wasn't right. Just my vitamins, Eva laughed, tucking the bottle into her designer handbag. Her voice carried that familiar sweet tone that always seemed to hypnotize our family. You know how forgetful I can be with these things. Mom rushed over, placing her hand on Eva's shoulder. Sweetheart, you need to be more careful with your medications, especially now. Her voice cracked on the last word. We were gathered for our weekly family dinner, but tonight was different. Eva had called earlier, insisting everyone needed to be present for an important announcement. Now here we sat, our plates of Mom's lasagna growing cold while Eva dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. I don't know how to say this, Eva began, her lower lip trembling. I've been keeping something from all of you for the past few weeks. Dad reached across the table, taking her hand. Whatever it is, Princess, we're here for you. I watched as Eva's eyes welled up with tears. She'd always been the family darling, our father's precious princess, while I was the reliable older sister who could handle herself. 28 years of playing second fiddle had taught me to read Eva's performances like a well-worn script. The doctors found something, she whispered. It's lymphoma, stage 3. Mom's wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering against the table. Red liquid spread across the white tablecloth like blood. Dad's face went ash gray. Oh God, no, Mom sobbed, pulling Eva into her arms. Not my baby. I sat there, frozen, as the scene unfolded. Eva detailed her supposed diagnosis, her voice breaking at all the right moments. She mentioned treatments she couldn't afford, specialist appointments that were stretching her finances thin. I didn't want to worry anyone, she sniffled, but I can't do this alone anymore. You won't have to, Dad declared, his voice firm despite his trembling hands. We'll remortgage the house if we have to, whatever you need. I found my voice at last. Which hospital are you being treated at? Eva's eyes met mine just for a second. Something flickered there, something that made my stomach twist. Memorial, she replied smoothly. Dr. Harrison's my oncologist. He's been amazing. My best friend Paris worked at Memorial. I'd never heard of a Dr. Harrison in oncology. We should all go with you to your next appointment, I suggested, keeping my tone gentle. For support. Eva's smile tightened slightly. Oh, I wouldn't want to overwhelm everyone. Besides, the treatments, they're not pretty. I wouldn't want you to see me like that. Freya, Mom cut in sharply, stop interrogating your sister. Can't you see she's been through enough? I fell silent, watching as my parents fussed over Eva. They were already discussing financial arrangements, talking about liquidating their retirement accounts. Eva sat there, accepting their devotion with practiced grace, occasionally wiping away a perfectly timed tear. My phone buzzed, a text from Paris. Drinks tomorrow? Need to talk about something important. Of course we'll help, Mom was saying as I looked up from my phone. We're family. We'll face this together. Eva turned to me, her eyes wide and pleading. I know we haven't always been close, Freya, but I really need my big sister right now. The words hit their mark. Despite my doubts, despite the nagging feeling in my gut, guilt washed over me. What kind of person suspects their sister of lying about cancer? I'm here for you, I heard myself say. Whatever you need. Eva reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Her grip was strong, her palm dry and warm, not at all like someone fighting for their life. Later that night, as I helped Mom clean up, I noticed Eva's vitamin bottle had fallen out of her bag again. This time I managed to catch a glimpse of the label before she snatched it away. It was empty. Completely empty. And the label was partially torn off, showing only a fragment of text that didn't look anything like a prescription. Everything okay? Eva asked, her voice honey-sweet but her eyes sharp as daggers. Yeah, I lied, forcing a smile. Everything's fine. But as I drove home that night, Eva's empty pill bottle and Dr. Harrison from Memorial kept circling in my mind. Something wasn't adding up. and I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly what tomorrow's conversation with Paris would be about. "There's no Dr. Harrison in our oncology department," Paris said, sliding my coffee across the table. "Never has been." The morning sun streamed through the cafe windows, but I felt cold. I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram, showing Paris my sister's latest post. Eva at some high-end boutique, modeling a new Gucci bag. "Posted 3 hours ago," I said. "Shouldn't she be at chemo?" Paris leaned forward, her nurse's instincts kicking in. "Look, I didn't want to say anything without being sure, but something's definitely wrong here. Cancer patients on aggressive treatment for stage 3 lymphoma don't usually go on shopping sprees. Maybe she's just trying to stay positive." Even as I said it, I knew how desperate I sounded. "Freya?" Paris's voice was gentle but firm. "Yesterday, you told me she claimed to be getting treatment at Memorial. I checked the records. We have no patient by her name." My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. "That's impossible. She must be registered under—" My phone buzzed. A message from Sophie, a mutual friend from college. "Hey, weird question. Is Eva really sick? Just saw her at the mall looking pretty healthy for someone doing chemo." I showed Paris the message. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Your parents are talking about remortgaging their house," she reminded me. "If there's even a chance she's lying—" "I know." I pulled my hand away, running it through my hair. "God, I know. But how do I even begin to prove it?" "Start with the basics. What medications did she say she's taking?" I shook my head. "She gets weird whenever anyone asks specific questions. Changes the subject or says she doesn't want to burden us with details." "Red flag number 1, Paris counted off on her fingers. "No doctor at Memorial. Red flag 2, shopping sprees during supposed treatment times. Red flag 3, and let's not forget that mysterious empty pill bottle." My phone lit up again, this time with a family group text from Eva. "Feeling blessed to have such amazing support through this journey. Mom and Dad, the first treatment payment went through. Thank you so much." "How much are they giving her?" Paris asked. $5,000 for the first round." My voice cracked. "They took it from their retirement fund." "Okay, that's it." Paris pulled out her own phone. "I'm calling in a favor. My friend Amy's an oncologist at St. Luke's. Let me run this by her, no names mentioned." While Paris stepped outside to make the call, I scrolled through Eva's social media. Between the brave fighter posts and sympathy-gathering status updates, there were shopping hauls, spa days, and restaurant check-ins. No hospital visits, no treatment updates, nothing medical at all. Paris returned, her face grim. "Amy says the timeline doesn't add up. Stage 3 lymphoma patients don't typically maintain such an active social schedule, especially in the first rounds of treatment. The fatigue alone—" "I need to tell my parents," I interrupted. "Wait." Paris grabbed my arm. "You need proof first, real solid proof. You know how your family is with Eva. If you go in there with just suspicions, they'll never believe you." She was right. I'd spent my whole life being the jealous older sister in their eyes. Every time I'd called out Eva's manipulations in the past, I'd been shut down, told I was being petty or cruel. So what do I do? "Document everything," Paris said firmly. "Screenshots, recordings, timestamps. Follow the money, and most importantly—" She paused, making sure I was looking her in the eye. "Don't let her know you're onto her. The minute she suspects, she'll cover her tracks." My phone buzzed again. "Eva. Sis, can you come with me to my appointment tomorrow? Could really use the support." I showed Paris the message. She raised an eyebrow. Interesting timing. Almost like she knows we're talking about her. "Should I go?" "Absolutely." Paris's eyes gleamed. "But first, let's get you wired up. My brother's a private investigator. He's got some recording equipment you can borrow. If she's lying, let's catch her in the act." I stared at my phone, at Eva's message with its perfectly placed heart emoji. All those years of manipulations, of watching her wrap our family around her finger, of being cast as the bad guy whenever I questioned her stories. Maybe it was finally time for the truth to come out. I typed back, "Of course, sis. Anything for you. What time should I pick you up?" "You're doing the right thing," Paris assured me, seeing my hand shake as I set down the phone. If she's scamming your family, they need to know. And if I'm wrong, I whispered. If I'm really just the jealous sister they always said I was? Paris's expression softened. Then you'll know you did your due diligence. But Freya? She waited until I met her gaze. I don't think you're wrong. Not this time. The doctor had to reschedule, Eva announced as she slid into my car's passenger seat. But since you're already here, want to grab lunch? The tiny microphone Paris's brother had given me felt like it was burning a hole in my jacket pocket. Sure. What about your treatment, though? Oh, they'll fit me in next week. Eva waved dismissively, then perked up. Let's try that new place downtown. My treat. I bit back a response about how our parents' money was funding her generosity. Instead, I drove, watching from the corner of my eye as Eva tapped away on her phone, occasionally giggling at messages. Turn here, she suddenly instructed, pointing at a side street that definitely wasn't heading toward any restaurants. This isn't downtown, I said, but followed her direction. Just need to make a quick stop first. She flashed me her trademark smile. Won't take long. We pulled up in front of Nordstrom. Eva practically bounced out of the car, her designer purse swinging. Come on, they're holding something for me. Inside, Eva made a beeline for the luxury handbag section. A sales associate greeted her by name. Ms. Eva, your special order arrived. Fantastic. Eva clapped her hands together. Freya, you have to see this. It's the new limited edition collection. I watched as the associate brought out a bag that probably cost more than 3 months of my rent. Eva examined it with more attention than I'd ever seen her give her supposed medical documents. Perfect, she breathed, pulling out her wallet. I'll take it. The associate glanced at me as she rang up the sale. Will your sister be getting one too? We only have 3 left. Oh, Freya's not really into designer things, Eva said dismissively. She's more practical. My phone buzzed. A text from Paris. Amy says there's no way a stage 3 lymphoma patient would skip a scheduled treatment. They're too crucial. Eva, I said carefully, maybe we should hold off on the shopping. With all your medical expenses. She froze for a split second before recovering. Don't worry about that. I've been saving up. From where? The words slipped out before I could stop them. You said you had to quit your job because of the treatments. The sales associate looked between us uncomfortably before excusing herself. Why are you being like this? Eva's lower lip trembled. I thought you were here to support me, not interrogate me. I am supporting you. Eva's phone connected to my car's Bluetooth automatically as we walked back, cutting me off mid-sentence. A voice filled the car's speakers. Eva, darling, got your message about the fake doctor's notes. Don't worry, I can get those made up for you by tomorrow. The usual rate? Eva lunged for her phone, but the damage was done. Our eyes met in the sudden silence. That wasn't what it sounded like, she said quickly. Then what was it? My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. It's for work. A project I'm consulting on. You quit your job, remember, because of the cancer treatments you're apparently skipping to go shopping. Eva's face changed. The vulnerable sister act dropped away, replaced by something harder, colder. Pull over. No. Pull over, Freya, or I swear I'll tell Mom and Dad you physically threatened me. We both know who they'll believe. I pulled into a nearby parking lot, my hands shaking. Eva gathered her shopping bags, then turned to me with that sweet smile that had fooled our family for so many years. I know what you're doing, she said softly. Following me, asking all these questions, getting your little nurse friend to snoop around. Stop it. You're only going to hurt yourself. You're stealing from our parents. I'm accepting help from my loving family during a difficult time. She opened the car door. Don't make me destroy you, sis. We both know I can. They remortgaged their house for you, and they did it gladly. Eva stepped out, then leaned down to look at me. Because unlike you, I know how to make people love me. Don't forget that. I watched her walk away, her new designer bag swinging from her arm. My phone buzzed again, another family group text from Eva. Had to cut my appointment short today. The side effects were too much. But blessed to have my big sister with me for support. Love you all. The responses flooded in immediately. Mom, my brave girls. Dad, so proud of you both. Freya, thank you for being there for your sister. I sat there staring at the messages, the recording device heavy in my pocket. Eva had just shown her true colors, but I was the only one who'd seen them. Now I had to prove it to everyone else, before she drained our parents dry. My phone buzzed one final time. A private message from Eva. Remember, sis? I always win. Play it again, Amy said, leaning forward in her office chair. The recording of Eva's Bluetooth mishap filled the room for the third time. I'd spent the past hour explaining everything to Amy, Paris's oncologist friend. She'd agreed to meet me after hours and now sat behind her desk, her expression growing darker with each detail. This is serious, she said, stopping the recording. Medical fraud isn't just morally wrong, it's illegal. I need your help, I replied, sliding Eva's supposed medical documents across the desk. She's using these to convince my parents. Can you verify if they're real? Amy picked up the papers, her professional demeanor cracking as she read. These are terrible forgeries. The letterhead's wrong, the medical terminology is inconsistent, and, she pointed to a signature, this doctor doesn't even exist. My phone rang, Eva's name flashing on the screen. I declined the call. 3 texts and 2 calls in the past hour, I explained. She's getting suspicious. Good. Amy started typing on her computer. That means she's worried. Look at this. She turned the screen toward me, showing a medical database. There's no record of Ava receiving treatment anywhere in the state. Not for lymphoma, not for anything. The phone rang again. Mom this time. I answered, putting it on speaker. Freya, why aren't you answering your sister's calls? She's very upset. I'm at work, Mom. The lie tasted bitter. What's wrong? Eva needs someone to drive her to her treatment tomorrow. Your father and I have that meeting with the bank about the second mortgage. Second mortgage? I shot up from my chair. Mom, you can't... Don't start, Freya. Your sister needs this. The first treatment payment barely covered. Mrs. Schmidt? Amy cut in, her voice carrying the authority of her profession. This is Dr. Amy Lowe. I'm an oncologist at St. Luke's. Could you please put Eva on the phone? I have some questions about her treatment plan. Silence crackled over the line. Then, who is this? Eva's doctor is at Memorial. That's interesting, Amy replied coolly. Because I've checked the medical records for every oncology department in the state. Your daughter isn't registered as a patient anywhere. The phone clicked dead. Well, Amy said, that's telling. My phone immediately lit up with text from Eva. What are you doing? Who was that woman? Answer me now. Then one from Mom. Eva's crying. How could you share her private medical information with strangers? Haven't we taught you anything about family loyalty? They're still believing her, I whispered. Not for long. Amy pulled out a fresh piece of paper. I'm writing an official statement confirming that Eva's documents are forgeries. We're also going to set up a meeting, your whole family, in my office. Let's see her maintain this lie face to face with a real oncologist. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Hello? Yes, this is Dr. Harrison from Memorial. The voice was male, obviously disguised. I'm calling about Eva's payment details. Really? I interrupted. Dr. Harrison? The one who doesn't exist? Put my sister on the phone right now. The line went dead. Amy raised an eyebrow. Did she really just try to... Yes. I dropped my head into my hands. She did. Okay. Amy's chair scraped back as she stood. This ends now. I'm calling in a favor with hospital administration. We're setting up a fake consultation for tomorrow. Tell your family Eva has an emergency appointment with a specialist, me. They'll all need to be there. They won't come. Eva will find a way out of it. No, she won't. Amy's voice was steel. Because you're going to tell your parents that Memorial is investigating insurance fraud, and if Eva doesn't show up tomorrow with her entire support system, they'll be launching a criminal investigation. My phone lit up with another family group text from Eva. Such terrible news. My condition has worsened. The doctors say I need more aggressive treatment. Mom, Dad, I hate to ask, but look at that timing, Amy muttered. She's scrambling. I typed out a message to my parents. Emergency meeting tomorrow at St. Luke's Hospital, 2 p.m. Attendance mandatory. Memorial Hospital's fraud department is involved. This is serious. Eva's response was immediate. I'm too sick for meetings. My doctor said. Amy took my phone and typed, This is Dr. Lowe. Attendance is not optional. All medical documentation and payment records must be presented. Failure to appear will result in an immediate criminal investigation. The typing indicator appeared and disappeared several times. Finally, Eva replied, Fine, 2 p.m. She'll try to run, I said. Amy smiled grimly. Let her try. I've already contacted Memorial's legal department. One way or another, this charade ends tomorrow. St. Luke's Hospital waiting room felt like a powder keg at 1:55 p.m. Mom and Dad sat rigidly in their chairs, shooting me disapproving looks. Paris stood by the door, preventing any quick exits. Amy was in her office, preparing the final pieces of evidence. And Eva was nowhere to be seen. She's not coming, Mom said, checking her phone for the 100th time. She's too sick to handle this kind of stress. The elevator dinged. Eva walked out, wearing full makeup and designer clothes, not a hair out of place. Behind her was Bodhi, my friend from college who worked at the bank, the same bank my parents had been dealing with for their mortgages. What's he doing here? Eva demanded, pointing at Bodhi. I invited him, I replied, since he handles the mortgage department that's been processing Mom and Dad's loans. Eva's perfectly composed face cracked for just a second. I'm not feeling well. We should reschedule. Sit down, Eva, Paris said firmly, blocking the exit. You can't keep me here. Eva's voice rose. This is harassment. What's going on? Dad stood up. Freya, explain yourself. Amy chose that moment to emerge from her office. I can explain everything, Mr. Schmidt. Please, all of you, come in. Eva made one last attempt to leave. My real doctor advised against any additional consultations? Your real doctor? Amy raised an eyebrow. You mean Dr. Harrison? The one who doesn't exist at Memorial? Mom gasped. Dad's face went pale. That's ridiculous, Eva laughed, but her voice shook. I have all my paperwork right here. She reached into her designer bag. Don't bother, Bodhi spoke up. The bank's fraud department has already flagged those documents as forgeries. Eva's bag dropped to the floor. Papers spilled out, including blank prescription forms and what looked like a rubber stamp with a doctor's signature. Oh, Eva, Mom whispered. What have you done? Nothing. Eva's eyes filled with tears. They're all lying. They're jealous of the attention I'm getting, especially Freya. She's always hated that you love me more. Mrs. Schmidt, Amy interjected, I have proof that your daughter has never received cancer treatment at any hospital in this state. The documents she's been using to secure loans are forgeries. The medications she claimed to be taking don't match any legitimate lymphoma treatment protocol. But the money? Dad's voice cracked. We gave you thousands for treatments. Eva's tears dried instantly. Her face transformed into something I'd only seen glimpses of before. Cold, calculating, cruel. Fine, she spat. You want the truth? I took the money, and you gave it so willingly, didn't you? Poor little Eva, everyone's favorite, finally getting the attention she deserves. We mortgaged our house, Mom sobbed. Twice. And you'd have done it 3 times if I'd asked. Eva laughed hysterically. That's the funny part. You all made it so easy, especially you, Freya, the responsible big sister, always suspicious but never brave enough to stand up to me. Until now. She turned to me, smirking. What changed? Finally grew a spine? I pulled out my phone and played the Bluetooth recording. Ava's smirk faltered as her own words filled the room. Ava, darling, got your message about the fake doctor's notes. I've already submitted this to the police, Bodhi said quietly, along with the fraudulent loan applications. Eva lunged for the door, but Paris caught her arm. Running will only make it worse. You're all pathetic, Eva snarled, struggling against Paris's grip. So desperate for a family drama to rally around that you never questioned anything. The empty pill bottles, the miraculous recoveries, the shopping sprees during supposed chemo sessions. You saw what you wanted to see. How much? Dad's voice was hollow. How much did you take from us? Enough to live the life I deserve, Eva replied. And I'd do it again. Security arrived, followed by 2 police officers. As they led Eva away, she turned back one last time. You'll regret this, Freya. Family is supposed to protect each other. No, I said, watching my sister's mask finally crumble completely. Family is supposed to be honest with each other. After Eva disappeared into the elevator, the room fell silent. Mom collapsed into Dad's arms, sobbing. Bodhi touched my shoulder gently. The bank will work with your parents, he whispered. We'll figure something out. Amy cleared her throat. I've contacted Memorial's legal department. They're pressing charges for impersonating medical personnel. With the bank fraud charges, well, Eva won't be shopping at Nordstrom for quite a while. I watched my parents, their world shattered, and felt a strange mix of victory and heartbreak. The truth was out, but at what cost? You did the right thing, Paris said firmly, reading my expression. Sometimes love means being strong enough to stop someone from hurting themselves and others. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from Eva. I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything. I turned off my phone. The time for Eva's manipulations was over. Now came the harder part, healing. The police station's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Eva's face as she sat across from us, her designer outfit replaced by standard-issue jail clothes. Mom clutched Dad's hand, both looking years older than they had just days ago. I'll pay it all back, Eva said, her voice carrying that familiar manipulative sweetness. Just drop the charges, and we can pretend this never happened. $97,000, Dad replied, his voice trembling. That's how much you stole from us. Our retirement, our savings, our home equity. I was going to invest it, Eva protested. I had plans. The Gucci bags in your apartment tell a different story, Detective Morris interrupted, dropping a thick folder on the table. We found receipts totaling over $60,000 in luxury purchases just from the past 3 months. Ava's eyes darted around the room, searching for sympathy. Finding none, her mask finally cracked completely. You don't understand what it's like, she exploded. Being the pretty one, the charming one, it's exhausting. Everyone expects me to be perfect, successful. I needed to keep up appearances. By pretending to have cancer? I couldn't hold back anymore. By watching Mom and Dad destroy their future for your shopping addiction. Oh, shut up, Freya, Eva sneered. You're loving this, aren't you? Finally getting to be the good daughter? Detective Morris cleared his throat. Let's focus on the charges. We have documented evidence of medical fraud, financial fraud, forgery of official documents. I want to make a deal, Eva interrupted. That's not how this works, the detective replied. The evidence is overwhelming. Multiple counts of fraud, each carrying a potential sentence of... I have dirt on people. Eva's composure crumbled completely. Important people. I can tell you about other scams, bigger ones. Mom started crying softly. Dad just stared at the table, shoulders slumped. I'd like to play something, I said quietly, pulling out my phone. From the day at Nordstrom. Ava's eyes widened as her own voice filled the room, detailing her schemes, bragging about manipulating our parents, threatening to destroy me if I exposed her. That's inadmissible, she shrieked. I didn't consent to being recorded. Single-party consent state, Detective Morris replied calmly. The recording is perfectly legal. You planned this, Eva hissed at me. You set me up. No, Eva, you did this to yourself. The detective opened another folder. We've also received statements from several other families. Apparently, this isn't your first time running a medical scam. Mom's head snapped up. What? 3 other families in the past 2 years, he continued. Different cities, different stories, but same pattern. Fake cancer diagnoses, forged documents, emotional manipulation for financial gain. Eva? Dad's voice cracked. Is this true? Eva's face went through a rapid series of expressions. anger, calculation, fear, before settling on her familiar victim pose. "I need help," she whimpered, tears flowing perfectly. "I'm sick, just not with cancer. I have a shopping addiction, depression, anxiety." "Stop it," I cut in. "Just stop. No more manipulation, no more lies." "The district attorney is offering a plea deal," Detective Morris said, "in exchange for full confession and restitution to all victims." "How long?" Eva whispered. "Minimum of 5 years." Eva lunged across the table, her handcuffs rattling. "This is your fault," she screamed at me. "I'm your sister. You were supposed to protect me." "I am protecting you," I replied steadily. "From yourself." The officers pulled Eva back as she continued screaming. "Mom, Dad, are you really going to let them do this to me? After everything we've been through?" Mom stood up slowly, tears streaming down her face. "We love you, Eva, but what you did, we can't protect you from this." "Dad?" Eva's voice turned small, childlike. "Daddy? Your little princess needs you." Dad finally looked up, his face aged a decade. "My little princess wouldn't have watched me destroy my life to fund her shopping sprees." Eva's mask shattered completely. "Fine," she spat. "You want the truth? I never cared about any of you. You were all just ATMs with legs, so pathetically eager to help poor sick Eva. You deserve to be scammed." The detective nodded to the officers, who began leading Eva away. "I hate you all," she shrieked as they pulled her toward the door. "Especially you, Freya. I'll make you pay for this." As her screams faded down the hallway, Mom collapsed into Dad's arms. I felt a hand on my shoulder. Detective Morris. "You did good," he said quietly. "It's not easy standing up to family, but you probably saved your parents from complete financial ruin." "What happens now?" I asked. "She'll face the consequences of her actions," he replied, "and hopefully get the help she actually needs." I watched my parents holding each other, their world completely shattered, and wondered if anything would ever be the same again. But at least now we could start rebuilding on a foundation of truth, not lies. The courtroom fell silent as Eva stood for sentencing. 3 months had passed since her arrest, and the toll was visible. Her designer clothes were replaced by a modest suit, her perfectly styled hair now plain and unstyled. "Before I deliver the sentence," Judge Martinez said, "would any of the victims like to make a statement?" Mom and Dad stayed seated, but I stood. Eva's eyes locked onto mine, burning with hatred. "Your Honor," I began, my voice steadier than I felt, "my sister isn't just a criminal. She's someone who systematically destroyed the lives of people who loved her. Our parents lost their retirement, their home equity, and their dignity. But they lost something even more valuable, their trust in family." Other victims stood up. A middle-aged woman from Cincinnati spoke about remortgaging her house to help Eva, who'd posed as a sick co-worker. An elderly man from Detroit described emptying his savings for Eva's fake leukemia treatments. "The defendant has shown a pattern of sophisticated, premeditated fraud," the prosecutor stated. "She specifically targeted vulnerable people, exploiting their compassion for financial gain." Eva's lawyer stood. "My client recognizes the severity of her actions. She's prepared to make full restitution." "With what money?" I interrupted, earning a sharp look from the judge. "She spent it all on luxury items." "Ms. Bennett," Eva's lawyer continued smoothly, "has agreed to surrender all assets for liquidation. Additionally, she's been diagnosed with several mental health conditions that contributed to her actions." Eva dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. I recognized the performance, the subtle trembling lip, the perfectly timed sniff. "Would the defendant like to make a statement?" Judge Martinez asked. Eva rose, her handcuffs clinking. "Your Honor, I'm deeply ashamed of my actions. I lost myself in a spiral of addiction and desperation. My sister Freya tried to stop me, but I wouldn't listen. I betrayed everyone who loved me, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make amends." I felt Mom stiffen beside me. This was new. Eva had never admitted guilt before, never acknowledged my attempts to help. The judge studied Eva for a long moment. "Ms. Bennett, Your crimes were not just financial. You exploited one of humanity's most basic instincts, the desire to help sick loved ones. You didn't just steal money, you stole trust, hope, and faith in human goodness. Eva's facade cracked slightly. Furthermore, the judge continued, your pattern of behavior shows careful planning and manipulation. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a calculated series of cons targeting multiple victims across state lines. The prosecutor stood again. Your Honor, we've also discovered additional victims who've come forward. Enough! Eva suddenly screamed, her mask shattering completely. You want to know the truth? Fine. They were all stupid, so desperate to play hero that they threw their money at me. And you? She whirled to face me. You self-righteous bitch, you ruined everything. Ms. Bennett, the judge's gavel cracked like a gunshot. Control yourself or you'll be removed. Eva's lawyer tried to calm her, but she shrugged him off. You think this will stop me? She snarled. I'll find new victims. There's always someone stupid enough to believe a sad story. The courtroom erupted in shocked murmurs. The judge's face hardened. Thank you, Ms. Bennett, for making my decision easier. I sentence you to 8 years in state prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. You are ordered to make full restitution to all victims, and you are barred from handling any financial transactions for others during your supervised release. Eva lunged toward me, but the bailiffs caught her. I'll get you for this, Freya. You think prison will hold me? They dragged her away, her threats echoing down the hallway. Mom broke down crying. Dad just sat there looking shell-shocked. It's over, Paris whispered, squeezing my hand. She can't hurt anyone else now. Bodhi approached with some papers. The banks agreed to restructure your parents' loans, he told Dad. We'll work something out. Amy, who'd testified about the medical fraud, joined us. I've started a support group for families affected by medical fraud. You're all welcome to join. As we left the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. How does it feel to send your sister to prison? Did you suspect her all along? What would you say to other families facing similar situations? I stopped on the courthouse steps. I'd tell them that real love means being strong enough to stop someone you care about from hurting others and themselves. Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. Dad put his arm around me for the first time since this all began. We're proud of you, Freya. We should have listened to you years ago. Mom wiped her eyes. We have a lot of healing to do, as a family. I watched the police van carrying Eva drive away, feeling not triumph, but a deep, aching sadness for what could have been. But at least now the healing could begin, not just for our family, but for all the lives Eva had touched with her lies. And that's why I started the Truth in Medical Claims Foundation, I concluded, looking out at the packed auditorium. Because sometimes the biggest frauds come from those we trust the most. The audience applauded as I stepped away from the podium. Amy joined me on stage, carrying a stack of pamphlets about medical fraud awareness. Questions? She asked the crowd. A woman stood up, clutching a tissue. My daughter's been asking for money for treatments, but something feels off. I'm afraid to question her because, what if I'm wrong? That fear is exactly what fraudsters count on, I replied. But love doesn't mean blind trust. It means caring enough to verify. My phone buzzed. A message from the prison counselor. Eva's requesting another family session. Your choice if you want to attend. I slipped the phone back into my pocket as more hands rose with questions. Paris, manning the registration table, caught my eye and gave me a thumbs up. We'd already helped identify 3 potential fraud cases this week alone. After the session, Mom and Dad waited by the entrance. They looked different now, stronger, more clear-eyed. The support group had helped tremendously. Good session, Dad said, hugging me, though I still flinch every time you tell our story. That's why it needs telling, Mom added. We got an interesting letter today. She pulled out an envelope with the prison stamp. Eva's written another apology. Her 4th this month, I noted, right before her parole hearing. She seems different this time, Mom said hopefully. The counselor says, Mom, I kept my voice gentle. Remember what we learned in therapy. Eva needs to prove change through actions, not words. Bodhi appeared. carrying coffee for everyone. The foundation's financial reports are ready, he said. We've helped recover over $2 million in fraudulent medical claims this quarter. Speaking of financial news, Dad added, we made the final payment on the house today. No more second mortgage. My throat tightened. Those extra mortgage payments had nearly bankrupted them, but they'd refused to let me help. Rebuilding on our own terms, they'd insisted. Dr. Lowe? A young man approached our group looking nervous. My brother's been showing us medical bills for his treatments, but when I called the hospital... Come with me, Amy said kindly, leading him toward her office. Another potential case, another family we might be able to help before it was too late. Paris joined us, holding up her phone. You're trending again. That interview you did about recognizing emotional manipulation in families really struck a chord. As long as it helps people, I said. That's all that matters. Speaking of helping people, Bodhi interjected. The bank's new fraud detection program caught 3 cases this week, all using the same tactics Eva used. Mom flinched at Eva's name, but her voice was steady. At least some good came from our experience. We're helping other families avoid what we went through. My phone buzzed again, another message from the prison counselor. Eva's made progress, but she's still deflecting responsibility. Thought you should know before deciding about the family session. Dad noticed my expression. Eva? I nodded. She wants to meet. What are you going to do? Mom asked. I'll go, I decided. Not because I believe she's changed, but because I need her to understand something. Our foundation isn't about revenge. It's about prevention, about turning pain into purpose. Paris squeezed my shoulder. Want me to come with you? No. I smiled at my friend who'd stood by me through everything. I need to do this alone. The afternoon sun streamed through the foundation's windows, illuminating the wall of thank you letters from families we'd helped. Each one represented a story like ours, but with a different ending. One where the truth came out before lives were destroyed. Ready for the support group session? Amy asked, returning from her office. We have 3 new families joining today. I looked at my parents, now volunteers who shared their experience to help others. At Paris and Amy, who'd helped expose the truth. At Bodhi, whose bank now led the industry in fraud prevention. You know what Eva never understood? I said, gathering my materials for the support group. Real love isn't about getting, it's about giving, about helping others avoid the traps we fell into. Mom wiped away a tear. You turned our family's darkest moment into light for others. No, I corrected her. We did it together, because that's what real family does. We help each other grow stronger, even from our deepest wounds. As we headed to the support group room, I felt not the weight of Eva's betrayal, but the lightness of purpose. Sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in life's hardest lessons. We'd learned ours. Now it was time to help others learn theirs.